let's just try to, you can pop it in a double box bin or put it all 4 boxes up, whatever you want to do. But we want to keep the radar up simply because we still have the tornado warning, Spencer County. This is going right through the Taylorsville area at this point. We've been tracking these storms back out to our west, so the storm tracker would be somewhere close to Mount Washington, somewhere just south of there. You're looking at that information and that feed from the storm tracker coming in. We'll get that fixed here off to my side here. That'll be the storm tracker coming up. But what you're noticing is some debris, whether that's just some sticks and trees that have been down or whether there's something more there that could have been indeed, could have been homes that have been.
Yeah, and Kevin, partially. It looks like, even I'm checking the terminal back and forth with you, that kind of cross-reference. It looks like it's on the eastern side of Waterford. It is tracking pretty much right along Highway 44. That is a very windy road, of course. I think you get past that point, there's the pumpkin patch store, and then you get into the core of Taylorsville. So no doubt if this trajectory is right and it holds, that is going to put it right there. We have just, I would say, it's on
about this area here. There's Waterford, yes.
Yeah, just east of, yeah, exactly. Right east of there, traveling right along Highway 44.
So it's going to take it through Yoder.
Yep.
And probably very close to Taylorsville.
You got it right there at that intersecting point when you eventually go up the hill to head to the lake. And, of course, Spencer County High School also there, not too far away from that area.
Getting a new update in with the radar so you can see, again, that rotation showing up clearly there. Back to the tools we go. I'm just going to draw it on here for you. Again, the rotation swinging through this area, off to the east of Waterford, north of 44, but barely, and through Yoder right up on 155 right now. So that's the zone that you have to pay attention to in terms of where the strongest rotation is, at least at this point. We've got some damage showing up from the storm tracker, from this storm. Doesn't surprise us because it caused major damage out to the west. You'll hear more about that in the hours to come. But right now over Normandy, pushing closer to you, get under the tornado safe place. Get there now. We have the tornado warning that continues. Veach would be the next place, moving through a good chunk of Spencer County as we speak. There's 155, there's Yoder, there's Taylorsville. Just to put it in perspective, it's just north of Taylorsville. Again, this is the zone of where we would have the greatest opportunity to see probably that strongest rotation. Somewhere right in there. Going to move right across 155. Brian, anything new?
Just trying to keep an eye on the other. It's kind of a messy radar signature, Kevin, because it's still evolving. Because what we had here was, let me try to get you a cleaner look to it so you guys can see what I'm looking at. We've got these individual cells that are kind of interfering at times with it. But if you look carefully, let me zoom in a little more, and you see these little notches that have formed here, basically on the northern side, one into here, Little Mount area, then back into Taylorsville. This is a quick scan. I mean, this thing is basically breaking the speed limit at the moment here. So it's moving already really to the eastern side now of Taylorsville. But it's these little notches. Each one of these keeps showing up with a decent amount of rotation within them. So typically in this scenario, instead of dealing with one large, big tornado, which would likely happen in West Kentucky, you get these brief ones that touch down. They look very ragged. If you were to see them in daytime, you can't, so don't go out chasing. But in the daytime, they would appear very ragged and forming. They touch down for a brief moment. They go back up, and then there's one as close to it as maybe 500 feet away, does the same exact thing, and they work as a team, if you will. We call these multiple vortices. This is a type of setup that seems to be doing that into Spencer County. That makes for very scattered damage when that happens. Makes it very difficult to really pinpoint one particular location, but that also means that entire area that you just highlighted there to get you all the way to Shelbyville down to Taylorsville, that entire zone is what we got to watch, because there could be small little spinning vortices, if you will, within that entire complex as it moves off to the east. But this storm is not done reorganizing yet.
No, and I tell you, and that's normal, by the way. That's nothing new, what Brian was pointing out. Early in the day, when we're first tapping into the storms or tapping into the atmosphere, they can become those supercell storms. That's what this one was early on. But now, as the messy part of the storm system sort of occurs, as we start to get it washed out, but we're still dealing with incredible winds, we can have those multiple vortices along that line. And that's appearing to be more and more likely, as Brian pointed out. You can still see some of that rotation past Normandy. Right along 44, 44. If you're along 44, you probably have seen something. In fact, we've had a number of reports from right along 44 coming in. I'm going to get to Ryan in just a minute on some of the damage reports that have been in real time in just the last few minutes. And then let me zoom back out. I'm going to go to our home view, and then we'll come back in. Again, Spencer County, you are under a tornado warning. Southern parts of Shelby County under the tornado warning. Don't think we've not been watching what's happening down toward Bowling Green. Another tornado warning there that could very well move into parts of Hart and then the southern parts of our viewing area. So we're not finished. This is going to continue on for several more hours tonight for some of us. Here in Louisville, the bulk of the action is to our south. Southern Indiana, same story. Most of it is to our south. Still have another line back out to the west. That should not be quite as strong. But nonetheless, what we're tracking now is on the radar. And I'll point the radar out instead of the velocity, and you can see the clusters of showers and thunderstorms moving through. Right now, parts of Bullitt County seeing that storm exit. It will be over parts of Spencer and southern Shelby counties. So to the camera we go as we zoom back in. Again, just pointing out some of the features of the radar that really help us to understand where the strongest winds are. Can be tough at times because it's not always a perfect area of rotation. Sometimes it's broad. Sometimes it comes back in the next scan. It's sort of a living and breathing thing, so it's acting and reacting to the environment that's around it. So let's go back to the tools and to the velocity we go. And we should continue to see, again, that area that we were watching is broadening out just a bit. So there is at least some signs of weakening. The last report was that this tornado would be nearby the Taylorsville area, moving to the northeast at about 55 miles an hour. Here's Taylorsville. Work your way up, and there you see Veach moving across the county line. This is Spencer into Shelby, okay? So right across Spencer-Shelby County line, that's where we see the greatest rotation, just north of Taylorsville, just north of Little Mount, pushing into Veach, moving closer to Southville. Those are communities that should be on guard for the potential of severe weather. Ryan is on the phone right now. We'll get to him in just a second. Back to the radar we go. Brian, do you have anything to add to what we're watching here, that warning until 2:30?
Well, I appreciate, first off, everyone, the social media reports are great. They're helpful. Keep sending those in if you're safely able to do so. Several reports of those, again, those dime-sized hail reports we had in Mount Washington. Cool video. I don't know if cool is the right word to say here on that, but that was sent in into the Mount Washington area, showing a lot of the power flashes. A lot of transformers are blown, so we'll have an idea.
Okay, is this the storm? What is this? Oh, so this is out in Mayfield. So,
okay.
So sorry for the scare there. But that's the courthouse, and it has been damaged heavily over in far western Kentucky. So that's just outside of our viewing area. More on that in the hours to come. Let's get back here and continue to talk about the tornado warning that we have for parts of our viewing area, which includes the Shelby and Spencer County areas. Brian?
Yeah, and that's still the one that we're watching as it evolves there to the north and east. What I'm going to do, let me turn on again the wind fields here. And we have different versions of and abilities to kind of look at this. We can certainly see each one of these little notches as they move through. Certainly right in through here as you head into just south of Shelbyville, as you get south of I-64. This is feeding into the interstate itself. So hopefully there's no traffic here on 64, because I'm sure there's going to be pretty strong wind gusts in that area. And also another little mini notch showing up there right on the actual border of Spencer and into Shelby counties. For the rest of the area, the one thing we're noting is a bit more of the heavier rain that's taking place and stronger winds. But notice to the south here, we'll be watching to see if any more of these cells feed into here. And I've already been watching this one too.
Brian,
yeah.
The state police just now reporting that there was that tornado touchdown near Yoder. We were tracking
Yoder.
that. That's not too far from Waterford. Remember, we were tracking that.
Yeah. All right. So here is the Yoder area. Right there, just north of Taylorsville. Right now, they're getting hit with just tremendous amount of rain at the moment. Right along 155, this, of course, cuts you all the way over to eventually to get you onto I-64. People use this as a cut through a lot and eventually head over to, say, even Route Road in the morning hours. So a lot of busy travel through there. But it's a northern side there of Taylorsville itself. So I'm sure at this moment, if that's the case, I would think they're probably going to be shutting down, probably due to some of that debris that's out there and some of the roadways areas on 155 and on Highway 44. But right now, if you're in Taylorsville, you're still in that zone where you're getting a lot of heavy rain. Still some wind out there. You're not completely out of the zone by any stretch. So just stay in there. I know it probably still sounds scary right now in your basement area. We still need to keep an eye, though, certainly on Shelby County.
No question about that. And will you punch up Simpsonville on our SkyTrack camera there? I see Bardstown up. Ryan, what do you have?
Okay, at this point, we do have a few damage reports coming in from Bullitt County. The Sheriff's Department would not elaborate on the number or the nature of those at this point, but they are saying they are getting reports of damage in from this likely radar-confirmed tornado that we've had move through there. And at this point, Spencer County has no damage-confirmed reports there, but this is so early on, and we're getting, of course, this data in minute by minute here, Kev.
Well, and that's part of Yoder. I mean, if they're seeing it, that would have been through Spencer, so
yes.
That would be the possible tornado touchdown that we have there. All right, there's a real-time radar view for you. This is moving past Spencer County, still in the county, moving over into southern parts of Shelby County. The warning is until 2:30, about another 24 minutes left on that warning. I'm going to move the radar so we can take a closer view. We'll pan this over. We'll grab the radar and then just move it over so we can see what's going on across parts of Shelby and Spencer County. So we'll get it out of the way of that box that sits behind my head. There's Southville. We go to the tools. Let's take a look at the velocity. This is very helpful. Again, Brian mentioned it's sort of broadened out in places, meaning punches of wind here or there. Starting to see right across the county border where we could have a little bit of tightening going on, not far from Little Mount. We had that report, 155 Taylorsville Road, seeing some of that debris likely. Brian was pointing that out. Ryan mentioned the reports we had coming out of Bullitt County. This storm has had a history of producing some of the debris. Let's go to the storm tracker. I want to see where it is, and I'd like to see if they are seeing any damage. So, again, you can see that tree sort of has us stuck right there for now. But that's coming out of Bullitt County, so we've had at least some trees down. Mark will turn the storm tracker around, and he'll make his way. I think we've had a few areas nearby that have had at least some damage, and I was trying to read this while I'm standing here, but there have been at least a few areas with damage. This is likely one of them across parts of Bullitt County. That likely continued into parts of Spencer County. Wouldn't be surprised to see some damage in Shelby County. Again, you can see this tightening just a bit. That's just one tool that we're looking at. When we go back to the draw, I can just point out that from Little Mount to Southville, this would be a zone that we'd be concerned with for the potential of the tornado. Now we go to the radar, you can see the heavy rain extends much farther north, up towards Shelbyville, in fact, all the way back toward Taylorsville. So boom, it comes in with a punch of wind, and then the rain continues. Again, when we first started tracking this, as it sort of really tightened up in parts of Bullitt County, I mean, it was just clear on the radar that this had a hook developing, and now we don't see that as much. So we'll have to wait for a couple more radar scans to see if indeed this redevelops or if it's just going to be a wind maker as it moves through. So let's go over to Brian.
All right, Kevin, I just want to mention the Storm Prediction Center is also still watching that really nasty cell that we had into southern areas of Kentucky that moved through the Hopkinsville area and Bowling Green. And look how many, by the way. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of them stacked up, and when you look to the south, there is nothing there. So that's going to keep feeding these over and over and over again. So no doubt the perhaps the worst of the severe weather outbreak, sorry, it's a long night, will likely happen right there along the Kentucky-Tennessee border. But for those of you that are right now in the path of this particular one, the lead one that's right over the Western Kentucky University campus, it may hold together for another hour. And if it does so, it may very well put you guys into a spot you need to be aware of. Let me try to do another storm track on that as we head to the next hour. And again, that will put it into, say, Cave City in the next 33 minutes, Munfordville next 40, Magnolia about 53 minutes, and maybe Hodgeville within the next hour itself. But right now, based on what I'm looking at here, Kevin, on the radar trends and what is south of that, which is nothing, there is nothing to stop that. So that is certainly an area that we're going to be focusing on. Now, we're still watching what's happening into Spencer and Shelby counties. But as we evolve here, once that cell calms down, we are still closely watching our southern tier of counties. I think that's where the main show is going to be for the next couple of hours ahead.
All right, we'll keep it right here. We're not going anywhere. We promised you we'd be here. We're not going anywhere tonight. We'll stay here even if there are no warnings temporarily, because we do expect additional warnings, especially to our south, as Brian has mentioned. Right now, the only warning that we have in the viewing area is for Shelby and Spencer. This is really moving out of Bullitt County now, impacting about 17,000 people from Taylorsville on up toward just south of the Shelbyville area. Mainly a heavy rain and wind maker, but the threat and the damage has been real with some of the intense winds and the possible tornado that we saw out of this. I'm going to go back to the home view. So let me just take you back, and we'll recap what's happening across the entire area. We have a number of reports coming in from out in Breckinridge County. These storms, again, started way out in Arkansas, moved across Ohio County, Breckinridge County, southern Meade, northern Hardin, Bullitt, now into parts of Shelby and Spencer counties. So that's the same storm we've been tracking. Along that line, we've knocked out AT&T cellular service across parts of Breckinridge County, and power lines are down in front of the Hardensburg Elementary School. So we do have real damage, not just in Breckinridge County, but also across parts of Bullitt County. The storm tracker is on the scene. We've got a couple of trees across the road, lots of branches down. We also have had reports of some buildings that have been damaged. All right, so that continues. That's the one storm that we've been tracking for so long. Additional storms that are newer are the ones down in Bowling Green, and this is a mean-looking storm too. Again, you can sort of see that storm now moving through Bowling Green. We'll take aim on Hart County and eventually into parts of Greene and perhaps Taylor counties of Kentucky. We'll have to watch that closely, likely to maintain some of that intensity with nothing to cut it off. So that's a zone that will be next of concern once we get this storm past us. This still has to go through Franklin County. We'll see if it upticks. This storm has had a history of sort of going up, easing down a bit, going back up, easing down. So that's what we'll watch as this moves across parts of Shelby and Spencer counties over the next few minutes. That warning goes until 2:30. We're already at about a quarter after, so we'll be watching that. Let's zoom into it. Southern Indiana. We're not ignoring you. You just don't have much happening right now in terms of active weather. There will be another round of storms back out to our west that moves in. Those are not showing great signs of intensifying at this point. We still have pretty strong winds aloft, and there are still some warnings up around the Indianapolis area, so we can't rule out warnings with this. You're going to see that that storm will continue to push through the area until the cold front moves through tomorrow. And boy, what a shock that's going to be. We're currently running in the upper 60s. It's 68 degrees in Louisville. By midday, we're falling back into the lower 40s. Wind chills will be a factor by tomorrow afternoon. So a powerful cold front out ahead of it. We have these thunderstorms to contend with. So this is, again, the area that we're watching. We have a number of reports that are coming in, and we'll get a check from Ryan on that. I know a lot of folks communicating on social media. We appreciate those reports. Appreciate those folks that have spent time to email us tonight. We do our best to sort of bounce around to all of our platforms and try to serve you the best we can. Let's zoom back in. Well, I did exactly opposite of what I wanted to do. I'm going to go back to the radar. Now let's zoom back in. Here we go. As we zoom back into parts of Spencer County and southern Shelby County, that's the, again, the broadening out of that storm. I don't suspect we'll see the tornado warning continued for this by the latest information that we're seeing, but let me just have a check. So we go to the velocity, and again, it's sort of tough to pick out, but I think we still have more of a strong wind maker pushing toward Harrisonville. Let's compare, Brian.
Yeah, it's got still some wiggle to it. If it's the best way I always use that meteorological term of the wiggles. Yeah, but you can certainly see, in this case, you really just want to follow the lightning. Where you see the lightning concentrate, that's the zone to kind of keep an eye on for any type of intensifying cell, especially, and whether or not it's weakening or getting stronger. And still some decent strikes there, right along I-64 and US 60. So if they were to extend this out for maybe a severe thunderstorm warning, they may for Shelby County, western Franklin, and then perhaps into northern areas of Harrison. That is possible, but as far as any strong tornadic signature, I'm not seeing that. But still, that concentrated lightning area, I still think that's a spot, a bit of a hot spot still we need to keep an eye on. And it's a busy area, and there are a lot of state troopers, too, that travel up and down that area. So that may help, too, if we get some of those reports here soon.
Yeah, and the latest from the Weather Service, who issues the warnings, they're saying they're going to let it go until its expiration time, and then they'll sort of reevaluate. Should it tick back up, they'll be able to expand that warning. If not, so we've got another, 15 minutes on the warning. Through that time, we'll be able to determine whether we continue that over into parts of Franklin County or not. So, again, right now, still questionable. The severe thunderstorm warning has expired. The only warning that we have is the tornado warning, and that includes parts of Shelby, southern parts of Shelby, and northern parts of Spencer. It's almost out of Spencer, so this really is a southern Shelby County storm, mainly along and south of I-64 at this point, but lifting just to the north. So something we'll watch as you pass by Shelbyville. So again, the tornado warning is getting redrawn there, and you can see the area that is still in that. That includes Shelby, parts of Spencer. That continues to move off to the east. You see the latest update there. So that tornado warning continues. Let's go over to Ryan Hoke, see what information he has and if there's anything new coming in from the social streams.
Okay, yeah, we do have a brand new photo that's just come in from Ashley Sutter here in Spencer County. If we can pop up Weather 3 there, and we'll be able to show you exactly what we're talking about here. It is a trampoline on top of a car, and you'll note that trampolines are very light. They are very broad, so they can get thrown around quite easily here. So Ashley,
I was wondering if we were going to have the first trampoline picture.
I know, it seems like during every severe weather event, and even just regular wind events, we get one of those. But yes, indeed, this is likely from a spot very close to where we had a radar-confirmed tornado there in Spencer County. Thank you to Ashley for giving us the permission to put this on the air this evening. We're going to continue to monitor for your photos and for your reports on Twitter and Facebook. Just tag us, Wave 3 Weather on Twitter, or you can submit your photo there in the comments section.